When I heard my sister Casey cooing at my newborn and calling him my little Leo, I smiled. At first, it was sweet, harmless. I chalked it up to affection, the kind you expect from a doting aunt. I had no idea that name, Leo, would become the first domino in a chain of events that nearly destroyed my family. I didn't know she wasn't just holding my child, she was planning to take him. But the unraveling started quietly. We named our son Leonardo after a dear friend my husband Matt and I lost in college. A reserved, brilliant guy who used to say the world was too strange not to be sacred. Naming our son after him felt right, like passing on something rare and beautiful. We chose it months in advance, whispered it to each other like a secret only we were allowed to hold. Casey hadn't even asked about names. She hadn't asked much about the pregnancy at all. When I announced it, her response was muted, "Wow, congrats," and that was it. But when she walked into the hospital room and saw him for the first time, something shifted. "You named him Leonardo?" she asked slowly, her eyes locked on him. That's my favorite name." Her smile was tight. "You remembered." I nodded, confused. Remembered what? She didn't explain, just asked to hold him, then didn't let go for almost an hour. At the time, I wrote it off. Casey was always intense. Growing up, she had this fixation streak: Betty Davis movies, vegan baking, Renaissance art, then Leonardo DiCaprio. She once claimed she'd marry him. Carried around a Titanic-themed diary well into college. It was weird, but not threatening. Quirky. But 2 weeks later, something felt off. I found her in Leo's nursery while I was napping. The door was shut. She'd drawn the blackout curtains, even though it was a bright afternoon. She was rocking him gently in the glider, whispering a lullaby I didn't recognize. When I stepped in, she jumped. "You shouldn't sneak up like that," she said sharply. "I wasn't sneaking," I replied. "What are you doing in here with the curtains drawn?" She hesitated. He was crying. "You didn't hear? I figured you were tired." Then she handed him back like nothing happened. That night, Matt brought it up. "She's not acting like an aunt. She's acting like she thinks he's hers." I waved it off. "She's just bonding." "Liv," he said, using the voice he reserved for moments that really mattered. "I don't want her here alone with him anymore." I thought he was overreacting until I found the album. It was tucked under the couch cushions, thick and pink, with gold trim around the edges. I assumed it was a baby gift we'd missed. But when I opened it, my stomach twisted. Photos. Dozens of them. All of Leo. Not ones we'd taken. Not ones we'd even seen. Close-ups from strange angles. One of him napping on my chest, taken from the stairs. One of his nursery window at night. One from our backyard, where I'd breastfed under a blanket. The cover said "My Leo." I confronted her the next day. At first, she looked embarrassed. Then offended. Then furious. "You've never understood me," she snapped. "Do you know what it's like to feel like your body betrayed you? I was meant to be a mother." "But you're not his," I said, voice shaking. "I would have been," she whispered. "I've loved that name since I was 14. I was going to use it for my son. But you stole it. You stole my Leo." My throat went dry. "You weren't even trying to get pregnant, Casey." "Because I knew I couldn't," she snapped. "But now, maybe fate gave him to me another way." She left after that. No apology. No goodbye. Just slammed the door and vanished. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. Because 10 days later, a CPS worker knocked on our door with a report that claimed I was mentally unstable, that my husband was violent, that our child, Leo, needed to be placed in a safe environment immediately. And waiting outside, arms crossed, was Casey, with a car seat already buckled into the back of her SUV. At first, I thought it was a joke. When I opened the door and saw Casey standing behind the CPS worker with a diaper bag slung over one shoulder and an empty car seat in her hand, I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because my mind couldn't catch up fast enough to what was happening. The social worker, Ms. Harrow, was calm but distant, her tone the kind they must train you for. We received multiple anonymous reports raising concern for the child's welfare. "This is a preliminary wellness check." Matt stepped forward. "What kind of reports?" Ms. Harrow glanced at her clipboard. "Allegations include postpartum mental instability, unsafe sleeping arrangements, emotional distress in the home, and possible bruising observed on the infant's leg." My heart sank. The bruising? That was from a vaccine 2 days ago. I had the pediatrician's note in Leo's baby file, and I knew exactly who had made the report. Casey stood a few feet back, feigning concern, her voice dripping with sincerity. Liv, I didn't want it to come to this, but I had to do something. You haven't been yourself. You mean tired? I snapped. Or hormonal? Or recovering from pushing a human out of my body? I know this is hard, Ms. Harrow said, holding up her hand like she was breaking up a bar fight. No one's removing the child today. This is just a wellness inspection, followed by standard interviews with both parents. However, given the volume of reports, we are also initiating a temporary placement review with next of kin. Matt's jaw clenched. You mean her? She's filed an emergency petition for guardianship, Harrow confirmed. The court date is already set for Monday. I nearly collapsed. Casey had done this weeks ago. She'd been laying the foundation before Leo was even born. We called a lawyer that night. Matt's cousin knew someone, Margot Bell, a family attorney with a take-no-prisoners vibe and zero patience for people who cried in meetings. You're on the back foot, she said bluntly. The system isn't built for truth. It's built for caution. CPS favors removing a child from a potentially unstable home, even temporarily, rather than risk a lawsuit if something goes wrong. But there's no evidence, I argued. No abuse. No neglect. That doesn't matter yet. What matters is the optics. You need to start documenting everything. 2 days later, the worst happened. CPS showed up again, this time with a temporary removal order. Matt lost it. You have no right. This is our son. But the order was signed. The investigator said it would be temporary, just until the hearing. Just a few days. I handed Leo over, still in his little blue pajamas, still clutching the stuffed giraffe Casey had gifted him. I wanted to scream, but the only sound that came out was a sob. Casey waited outside with the car already running. She smiled when she saw him. Not at me. At him. She buckled him in, smoothed his hair, and kissed his forehead like she'd been doing it for months. Then she drove away. I dropped to the porch and screamed into my hands until my neighbors pulled their curtains shut. That night, I went into Leo's room. The crib was empty. The silence was so complete it hurt. I sat on the floor for 3 hours with one of his burp cloths balled in my hands, dry heaving into the night. At 2:08 a.m., Matt showed me Casey's new Instagram page. At Mama. 2. Leo. 4,000 followers in 2 days. Every post was a lie. Leo in a onesie, captioned our morning snuggles. A blurry photo of her holding him. He calls me Mama. I'm not crying, you are. I stared at the screen in disbelief. These weren't just moments she fabricated. Some of them were photos I'd taken, ones I'd shared in private family chats. She'd downloaded them, edited them, and repurposed them for her followers. Her caption on one of them read, "Sometimes motherhood chooses you in unexpected ways." My lawyer was furious. Start saving every screenshot, Margot said. Build a paper trail. The court hearing was scheduled for Monday. We arrived in pressed clothes with documentation, statements from our pediatrician, even printouts of Casey's social media. Casey showed up in a white sundress with Leo in her arms and a cardigan draped over her shoulders like she was auditioning for a Hallmark movie. The judge skimmed the reports, nodded through the pediatrician's note, and glanced at the CPS logs. Mother presented as emotionally overwhelmed during initial interviews. Household appeared disorganized. No concrete evidence of abuse, but indicators of stress. Then he looked at Casey's file. Stable home environment. Clean criminal record. Immediate family. Willing to provide care during investigation. He didn't look at me again. Casey was granted temporary custody. 2 weeks. Maybe less. Non-permanent. She walked out of that courtroom holding my baby like she deserved him. Like I'd been the babysitter and she'd just picked up what was hers. That night, I stopped crying. I opened my laptop and created a folder. Casey, full timeline. Every message she'd ever sent me. Every odd comment from the baby shower. Every photo she'd reposted. Every appointment reminder that I'd synced to her calendar months ago. And that's when I found it. An entry dated February 11th, 3 weeks before Leo was born. Submit emergency guardianship petition. She hadn't just snapped after meeting my son. She'd planned this entire thing before he was even born. The night after the court ruling, I sat alone in Leo's nursery, cradling a stuffed giraffe and listening to a silence that used to be filled with breathing, cooing, the rustle of soft blankets. The crib was empty, and everything about the room felt wrong. Like the walls had swallowed him. My body still operated on newborn time, milk letdowns, sleep deprivation, Phantom cries, but the baby was gone. Taken. Handed off to someone I used to trust more than anyone. Matt stood in the doorway. She told the court he calls her mama, he said quietly. He barely knows her name. His voice cracked at the end, and he left before I could respond. That line stayed with me all night. He calls her mama. But it wasn't just the words. It was the image I couldn't shake. Casey carrying Leo out of the courtroom with a softness she had no right to. Like she was playing a part she'd practiced in the mirror too many times. I barely slept. Around 3 a.m., I found myself staring out the window, lost in a memory I hadn't thought about in years. I was 7 when my parents divorced. My dad left quietly. No shouting, no custody battle, just vanished one day with a packed suitcase and a half-hearted hug. My mom told me he got a new job out of state. She didn't say where. She never let me call. Years later, I was playing in the backyard when a strange car pulled into our driveway. A man stepped out slowly, holding a brown paper bag and looking unsure of his own feet. "Hi, Olive," he said, voice cracking. "You look so grown." It was my dad. He said he was in town for work. Wanted to take me for ice cream. Just for a little while. But my mom came barreling out the front door before I could say anything. She screamed at him to leave, threatened to call the cops. I remember standing there, confused, while he looked at me like he didn't recognize who I was anymore. Like maybe, after so much time, I really wasn't his daughter anymore, just a stranger. That memory hit me like a punch to the ribs. Because now I was the one left behind. And if I didn't fight harder, if I didn't find a way to stop this, Leo might grow up thinking I was just some woman in photos. A name no one mentioned. A stranger with his eyes. The next morning, I called Margot. "I have more," I told her. Proof she planned this. Before Leo was even born. I forwarded the calendar entry. Casey had scheduled the guardianship filing 3 weeks before my due date. I sent photos of her album, screenshots of her Instagram captions, her fake Mama Leo persona. Margot barely blinked. "We need a witness." What kind of witness? Someone who can testify to her pattern, her mindset, someone she let her mask slip around. That's when I remembered Becca, Casey's old roommate from a few years ago. They'd lived together for 9 months before Becca moved out under vague circumstances. I hadn't seen her since. I found her on Facebook and messaged her with just one line. "This is about Casey. Please, it's urgent." She called me 20 minutes later. "I always knew something like this was going to happen," she said. "What do you mean?" She used to talk about taking other people's kids. It was always abstract, hypothetical, but obsessive. Like, I'd be a better mom than her. Or, if Olivia ever has a kid, I hope she screws up enough that I can raise it instead. I thought she was just venting. "Do you still have anything? Messages, emails?" "I keep everything," she said. "Give me a few hours." By that evening, she'd sent over 30 screenshots. One from 4 years ago. "If Olivia ever has a baby, that kid's going to need me. She can't even keep a cactus alive." Another. "If fate gave me the wrong body, maybe I can still get the right child." I sent everything to Margot. She filed an emergency petition the next morning. But then Casey escalated. Somehow, maybe through someone at court, she found out what we were doing. That night, she posted a video on Instagram. It was her, holding Leo in her lap. She was crying. Real tears. Or maybe good acting. Hard to tell. "I'm just trying to protect him," she said. "His parents want to take him back, but he cries when I say their names. He doesn't even recognize them anymore. He calls me Mama." The comments poured in. Hundreds of strangers offering support. "You're doing the right thing. Trust your instincts, Mama. The system doesn't always protect the kids. Sometimes it's up to us." But one detail chilled me more than all the rest. The room behind her. It wasn't her apartment. It was my childhood bedroom. The curtains. The floral wallpaper. The bookshelf Matt and I had painted for Leo, but never had time to move. She'd taken Leo to our mother's old house. Recreated a world I thought we'd both left behind. She was trying to rewrite the past. Only this time, I didn't exist. Getting Leo taken away was never going to be enough for Casey. She didn't just want custody. She wanted ownership. She wanted my identity, the title of Mama, the soft-eyed admiration from strangers, the Instagram followers fawning over her journey. She wanted the life she never had, and somehow, she'd convinced herself it had always been hers. I thought I'd seen the worst of it. I was wrong. After her video claiming Leo had stopped recognizing me went viral, things moved fast. Our attorney Margot was compiling evidence for a reversal, and we were working with Becca and the pediatrician to build the timeline. But the courts were slow, and Leo was still in Casey's care. Then someone unexpected reached out. A message landed in my filtered Instagram inbox from an account with no photo. "You don't know me. I've been working for your sister." I didn't realize what was really happening until now. The sender introduced herself as Lila, a nanny Casey had hired off a parenting Facebook group. She'd been with them for just over a week. She told me she was Leo's legal guardian, Lila wrote. Said his parents were dangerous. That she was the only one keeping him safe. She cried when she told me. I messaged back instantly. I needed answers. Lila agreed to call. She was so controlling, she said. I wasn't allowed to feed him unless she watched. Couldn't take him outside. I thought it was just overprotective first-time mom stuff. Until I noticed he only cried when she held him. My heart clenched. She said he was sensitive, Lila continued. But the bruising on his thigh didn't look like a sensitive baby. It looked like someone grabbed him too hard. Did you report it? I asked, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. I'm scared of her, she said. But I'll give a statement. Just don't tell her it came from me. I hung up and forwarded everything to Margot. That was our leverage, a first-hand witness. Someone inside Casey's house. But we needed more. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something gnawed at me. The way Casey moved through this entire scheme like she was always one step ahead. She knew where we were, what we were doing, how close we were getting. Then I remembered something Matt had said a few days ago, when we'd come home to find the baby monitor blinking on and off. Probably a glitch. Only now, I wasn't so sure. I went digging through Leo's things, the ones Casey had returned early on, before she got confident. I picked up the giraffe plushie she'd gifted me at the baby shower. The one Leo used to sleep with, the one she always said was special. It felt heavier than I remembered. I turned it over, tugged at a seam near the belly, and something shifted inside. My fingers dug in. I found a small black disc, stitched behind the stuffing, cool against my palm. A camera. My legs buckled. I sank to the floor. She was watching us. All this time. I called Matt, who was staying at his parents' for safety while we gathered evidence. Check the hallway bookshelf, I said. Behind the family photo. The one she gave us for Christmas last year. He didn't even need 5 minutes. There's something back there, he said. Small. Red light. Another camera. I felt sick. We took everything to the police. Margot met us at the station with her files and calm fury. She laid out the calendar entry, Becca's texts, Lila's call log, the nanny's photos, screenshots of Casey's captions, and now, 2 illegally planted surveillance devices. The officer at the desk didn't even blink. This is enough to open a criminal investigation, he said, and to request a protective order. They issued a search warrant within hours. When officers went to the house, my mother's house, now hers, they found 2 more listening devices. One in Leo's nursery, one behind the headboard of her bed. Everything was recorded, audio and video. Casey had been documenting our home and her warped version of motherhood, conflating them into one story, one fantasy, where she was the savior and I was the threat. The judge moved our hearing up. Instead of next week, it was now scheduled for the following morning. One last night. I couldn't sleep. I sat in Leo's room, our Leo, not the one she'd renamed on Instagram, and stared at the crib, which hadn't held him in weeks. My body ached like I was missing a limb. Then Matt walked in holding a printed photo. I think you should bring this tomorrow, he said. Remind them who he belongs to. It was the first photo we took as a family. The hospital room. My hair a mess. Leo still wrinkled and red and perfect. Matt kissing my temple. The 3 of us, before any of this had gone wrong. Before my sister tried to erase me. I packed it in my bag, alongside the court documents and USB drives. Because tomorrow, we'd take everything back. The courtroom was cold. The kind of sterile, hollow cold that had nothing to do with air conditioning. I sat gripping a framed photo of the 3 of us. Leo freshly born, Matt beside me, and me with tears in my eyes and hospital hair. That moment felt like another life. Then they brought her in. Casey walked in holding Leo like a prize. He was dressed in one of those Instagram-ready outfits. White knit romper, tiny shoes, a matching cardigan that she probably staged a flat-lay post for earlier that morning. She looked calm, rehearsed, her makeup flawless, her composure chilling. But Leo wasn't looking at her. His eyes scanned the room, confused, wide. And then he saw me. His mouth didn't form words, but his body reached out, arms stretching, a tiny whimper escaping his lips. She tightened her hold like she hadn't noticed. The judge opened the session. Our attorney Margot presented the new evidence in crisp order: illegal surveillance, manipulation of CPS, nanny testimony, psychological manipulation, planning documents dating back before Leo was even born. Each piece fell like a domino. Becca testified next. She said if Olivia ever had a baby, she was going to take it. I thought she was joking at the time, until she stopped. Then came Lila. She said his parents were deadbeats, that she was the only one protecting him. But he didn't call her anything, not Mama, not Casey. Just silence. The room was silent, until the judge turned to Casey. Ms. Hayes, do you have anything to say before I issue my ruling? She didn't stand. She just whispered, he was mine first. Then louder, I saw him before she ever got pregnant. I named him. I prayed for him. I manifested him. She stood up now, frantic, holding Leo like a shield. She doesn't know him like I do. She didn't want him. I was meant to be his mother. He calls me Mama. Leo whimpered. The judge signaled the bailiff. Ms. Hayes, place the child down. Now. Casey stepped back, gripping him tighter. You don't understand. If you take him from me, I'll have nothing. I'll die. You're killing me. The room froze. Because that was the truth behind everything. It was never about Leo. It was about her. Her loneliness. Her fractured mind. Her desperation to belong. To be worshipped. To be needed by something that couldn't leave her. The bailiff stepped forward. Casey sobbed as Leo was gently lifted from her arms. He didn't scream. He didn't resist. He just reached for me again. I held him and felt his tiny hands curl into my shirt like they used to. His scent hit me, baby shampoo, lavender, something familiar, and the dam inside me cracked. The judge called for a recess. Inside chambers, Margot gave us the news. Custody restored. Permanently. Protective order granted. Criminal charges under review. No visitation. No further contact. The judge's language was firm. A premeditated and escalating psychological disturbance with intent to displace parental identity. Casey was taken from the courtroom under psychological supervision. She never looked back. Not at Leo. Not at me. Her eyes had gone distant, like she was staring into a version of her story that no longer existed. She never said my name again. We moved within a month. A new town. A new nursery. A new pediatrician. We didn't tell anyone, not even old friends, where we were going. No forwarding address. Just distance. Just quiet. Leo started sleeping through the night again. He stopped flinching at loud sounds. He smiled at Peekaboo, laughed when Matt danced like a dork in the kitchen. He called me Mama again, softly at first, then louder. One night, I caught him staring at the giraffe plush Casey had once stuffed with a camera. He didn't seem scared, just curious. I unstitched it, filled it with soft wool, sewed it back up. It's just a toy now. No eyes. No ears. No secrets. Sometimes, I still check the windows before bed. Sometimes, I still dream of that courtroom and the way she screamed like her soul was breaking in half. But then I hear Leo breathing next to me. And I remember. She didn't win. She never had him. She just thought love was something you could steal.